Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Philosopher's Stoned. Tonight we are going to get into some real occult shit. And it's a topic I say this a lot, I've been wanting to cover it. It feels like the right time because we're seeing some shit happen that can't really be explained. There's some shit coming out in the sky, portals are opening. I'll get into that at the end of the episode about what I think is going on. The topic at hand is Jack Parsons and the Babalon working, which is the ritual of the Moonchild, brought to us by the Scarlet Woman. Alright, so we'll just get into it. If you don't know who Jack Parsons is, I'm about to explain real quick. Marvel Whiteside Parsons, aka Jack Parsons, was born in 1914. Now, into his adolescence, he was infatuated with science fiction and the idea of sending humanity into space. Not a lot of little kids are thinking about sending people into space in 1914. After some schooling and some other forms of education like public lectures, Parsons is responsible for pioneering what we know as liquid rocket fuel that's still used today. He's one of the principal founders of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, aka JPL, so he's really the godfather of NASA. So he's a brilliant rocket engineer, scientist dude, but his legacy has been tarnished by his work with the occult, specifically the OTO, which was led by Aleister Crowley. So with all this knowledge, he died at the age of 37 after working on a private experiment in his garage after being blackballed by the science community because of his infatuation with magic and the occult. That's where he ended up, like he was just I read he was making explosions for Hollywood and shit like that, like doing stunt shit. So not really where he thought he was going to be. I'm going to go ahead and say he was murdered because someone with this type of knowledge is not going to make some simple ingredient mistake and blow themselves up. But fuck all that. Let's get into the occult aspect of this dude. So in 1939, he was initiated into the Order of the OTO by none other than Aleister Crowley himself. He rose the ranks of the order quickly, so him and Crowley had a pretty strong relationship, to say the least. His titles were Fraternal 132 and then Fraternal Saturnus. Eventually, Jack and Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard met, and this was before LRH created the cult that we know as Scientology. Some say that some military intelligence agency sent L. Ron to go keep an eye on members of the OTO in the California area, but who knows? There's one account of after their splitting, they found L. Ron digging through the trash of Parsons' mansion. So Hubbard had an affair with Jack's girlfriend Sarah, aka Betty, who was actually Jack's first wife's sister. So this is like the free love time where everyone's just fucking each other. Everyone's just banging everybody. Fucking nasty. It reminds me of how Edward Kelly shows up in John Dee's life and somehow convinces him that they gotta share their wives, per request of a higher power communication. Some speculate that this transference of affection from Jack to Elron was why Jack was so eager to start the Babalon working that we're about to get into, and so he could find his Scarlet Woman. So Parsons' mansion in Pasadena was like an occult superhouse where he only allowed the most interesting people to stay there. You basically had to be some type of freak or wizard or Satanist or a practicer of thelema, something like that. You had to be a hippie or some type of weirdo to be allowed to live there. Now let's get into the Babalon working and the Moonchild ritual. Here's an excerpt from the introduction of the Book of Babalon. A note on the underlying philosophy. The present age is under the influence of the force called, in magical terminology, Horus. This force relates to fire, Mars, and the sun. That is, to power, violence, and energy. It also relates to a child, being innocent. That kind of gives you an idea of the philosophy of the Babalon working. Maybe not. So Thelemites called the Antichrist the Moonchild, and the Moonchild was to be born of a Scarlet Woman, or the Scarlet Woman. Interestingly enough, the Scarlet Woman is referenced in the Book of Revelations. Now, before we get into this, I'll state that Aleister Crowley heard about these two magicians conducting this ritual and said this: apparently Parsons or Hubbard or somebody is producing a Moonchild. I get fairly frantic when I contemplate the idiocy of these louts. I'm going to start calling people louts from now on. So Parsons and Hubbard began a ritual to find their Scarlet Woman on January 4th, 1946. At 9 p.m., Parsons prepared the magical instruments and weapons, including the Enochian Tablet of Air and some type of air dagger, some other stuff that's listed in the Babalon working that Jack Parsons wrote after the ritual. So he performed 11 rituals over the course of 11 days. On the second and third nights, windstorms began overnight, which is a sign that it's working. On the seventh night, Parsons was awoken at midnight by 7 knocks and his table lamp being thrown across the room. On the 10th night, Hubbard was in his magician robes, and then he was hit by a spirit on the right shoulder, and he dropped the candle that he was holding. Parsons came to his aid. Then they saw a brownish yellow light, like 7 feet tall apparition in the kitchens, like the ghost from Ghostbusters or something. Parsons banished the apparition with his magical sword, so it disappeared after Parsons waved his magical sword at it. The rest of the night, it said that Hubbard's right arm was paralyzed. 4 days after the end of the ritual, Hubbard and Parsons went to the desert just to chill. And then Jack was suddenly hit with a feeling of relaxation and content. That's when he knew their practices worked and was complete. He turned to Hubbard and he was like, "We've done it. We completed the ritual. It worked." So after they felt like it was complete, they returned to the Parsons occult compound in Pasadena, and there they found a red-haired woman named Marjorie Cameron waiting for them. She was more than willing to participate in the Moonchild, bringing forth the Antichrist whatever ritual. Parsons is noted to having instructions from a higher power on how to impregnate the Scarlet Woman with this Antichrist baby, like a Rosemary's Baby type situation. On February 27th, Hubbard went on a little week-long vacation, and this is when Parsons went to the Mojave Desert by himself to do his own invocation of Babalon. During the ceremony, the presence of the goddess came to him and ordered him to write a communication titled Liber 49. Parsons kept this a secret from his magic partner, Hubbard. Now, in this book that I've read, Hubbard is noted as the scribe of the ritual and also the magic partner of Parsons. So Parsons and Hubbard became real close. They used weird nicknames, like they called each other uncle and shit. And it's also, I need to say that Crowley and Parsons had a very close relationship, to where Parsons would call him father, which is super strange. So Parsons began preparing the foundational instruments of the ritual, the altar and the other equipment he included in Liber 49. On March 2nd, Hubbard the scribe returned and told Jack about a vision he had of a savage and a beautiful naked woman riding on a giant cat-like beast. Hubbard felt an urgency to give Parsons some kind of magical communication, so they constructed a temple at the altar. Hubbard was in a white robe and Jack was in a black hooded robe, holding the cup and the dagger. Then Hubbard, known as the scribe, spoke the following communication. The Angel of Tarot, a 3-day retirement to greet her. Purify thyself. The symbol is 7 by 3. It is Babalon. Keep secret. The communications are sacred. These are the preparations: green gold cloth, food for the beast, upon a hidden platter, back of the altar, disclose only when the doors are bolted, transgression is death, back of main altar, prepare instantly, light the first flame at 10 p.m., March 2nd, 1946. The year of Babylon is 4063. Beware of the use of profaned rituals. She is flame of life, power of darkness. She destroys with the glance. She may take thy soul. She feeds upon the death of men. Beautiful, horrible. So after Hubbard the scribe recited this, he was pale and sweating and had to rest. But then he communicated more of the message, which I'm not going to repeat because it's super long. And it's broken down as the first ritual, the first invocation, the second invocation, the priest, Babalon, and the third invocation, which is known as the chorus. I'll recite the first part, which is said to be the main part that Hubbard, Jack, and the Scarlet Woman all participated in to bring forth the Antichrist. Glory unto the Scarlet Woman, Babalon, the mother of abomination, that rideth upon the beast, for she hath split their blood in every corner of the earth, and lo, she hath mingled it in her cup of whoredom. Whoredom. So after they recited all this, this is when Jack followed his special sex instructions of impregnating the Scarlet Woman with the Moonchild. So I'm guessing that's what happened. Following this was the fourth invocation, the fifth invocation titled The Call of the Seventh Heir, and the sixth invocation was actually from the book The Tannhauser, written by Aleister Crowley. Now that's kind of where the Babalon working and the Moonchild ritual ends, for me at least. There's more written about what comes to follow in Parsons and Hubbard's wizard careers together, like how Hubbard basically got Parsons to fund a boat deal from Florida that he ended up fucking Parsons over on and taking the money, and that's how he started Scientology. So Parsons is actually the funding for Scientology came from Parsons. And so not only is he the godfather of NASA and the JPL, but he also is technically the godfather of Scientology. So thank you, Parsons. But here's where the real reason I wanted to do this episode. I want to talk about the possibility that these two, with this ritual, possibly opened up a portal or a vortex in the Mojave Desert around the area of Arroyo Seco, also known as Devil's Gate, which is located right around this dam. After their workings in this area, a bunch of UFO sightings were reported. The media called it the Great Flying Saucer Flap. So it's said in a bunch of writings by other magicians and wizard people that they didn't do it right, or they didn't finish it completely, and they left this portal open so things could, and I don't want to say things, entities could be entering our dimension from this portal. I don't know if you've seen the video on the internet lately of the sky screaming, or if you're familiar with the Gnosis writings and Lilith and Samael and basically demons and whatnot, evil entities coming through a portal into our world, which will be the end times as we know it. So it could be all thanks to Jack Parsons and good old L. Ron fucking Hubbard. Soon I'm going to cover the Alamantra working, which was done in 1919 by Aleister Crowley, where the rituals were similar to the Babalon one and where an alleged portal or vortex was opened up, and Crowley spoke to an entity who resembled what we know as a gray alien named Lamb. Now this was way before we ever knew what the grays look like or what abduction contactee people claim the grays look like. I know this was a confusing episode. Basically, they did a ritual over the course of 11 days, and then a woman showed up that was prophesized to show up, who was the Scarlet Woman, and they impregnated her, and she was supposed to give birth to the Antichrist. I'm not sure if she ever did. Who knows? Maybe she did. Maybe the Antichrist grew up in San Francisco or Pasadena or some other town in California. Not really fucking sure. But I do believe that these two opened up a portal fucking around with this shit, and I don't think it's closed. I think it's wide the fuck open, and entities from other realms or dimensions can come right through it. I understand that this episode is not for everybody. It's kind of confusing, and you really do have to do some reading. If I can find the PDF link to the Babalon working and the other writings of Jack Parsons, I will put it in the description. But I have a million fucking bookmarks on my Google shit, so maybe. I hope this was entertaining, at least. So yeah. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna get more into the occult stuff, so prepare to be confused more as time goes on. Have a good fucking night or day or whenever you watch this. If you're like my friend Johnny Talamini, you're listening to this at work. So I hope you have a good time listening to my beautiful voice, buddy.